Welcome to Life Is, a proud part of the Bethel University Clarion Podcast Network. I'm co-host Zach Walker.
And I'm co-host Abby Pautz. Today, Life is Dreams. We'll talk about wolves coming out of armpits, WWE being an essential business, and how hose water is the best water.
We'll discuss painful musicals, the Challenger explosion, and what the American dream really means.
And even though we're supposed to be talking about dreams, we'll probably wonder about other things and maybe talk to some folks over at the award-winning Clarion Newsroom.
Because life is dreams, but life is everything else too. Life is drops now. Abby, kick us off.
Woo! Okay. Zach, what's
That's
your
how you're
dream?
gonna start?
Yeah, just with a woo!
Woo! Like 26% effort into that. Woo!
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 You're right,
Okay.
fist pumped with that one. That one was better.
You did.
Zach, what's your dream life? Like, what do you aspire to do with your life?
McDonald's mascot designer. I just get to create new McDonald's mascots, but they're all different
Grimace.
They're all different variations of Grimace when I name them different things. I mean, do you want like my actual like serious dream life answer? Do you want like what I would say when I was a middle schooler? What do you want?
Oh, sure, do that.
The middle school one?
Do you want to be a vet? Everyone wants to be a vet, like in elementary school.
I'm sure there was one point in my life where I wanted to be a vet, but that quickly went away. I remember there was a good amount of time in my life where I wanted to be a WWE superstar. As a child, I would watch for probably 6 years. I would watch WWE Monday Night Raw every single Monday night. I did not miss one. And
I can't believe people actually watch that.
Oh, it's
I just
great.
See the commercials. I didn't even believe that people actually turned the TV on to that.
Dude, it was the best. It was the best. Here's something about WWE.
Is it not popular anymore, maybe? Was it more popular?
It's still
when you were
pretty popular.
It's still big? Okay.
Here's a testament to its popularity. Over a month ago, I believe, when we were, we're still in the throes of coronavirus, but Wisconsin it has no regulations and it's wild, but I won't get into that. About a month ago, the Florida governor declared live WWE an essential business. So there's that.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am 100% serious.
That's so
an essential
weird.
business. And all of
Why
it.
have I not heard this?
Yeah, because you're not in the cool WWE community, Abby. Come on.
The community.
The bandwagon.
There's a Facebook group.
There is. WWE is like really huge in the South. Like all the WrestleManias, biggest sports event in the world. That's not true. They're all like in the South, in Florida or Alabama or whatever. It's the best. It's like opera, but sports and like people throwing each other around because it's all, it is because it's all scripted and there's like drama and characters and protagonists and antagonists. And they're like
okay. So this isn't like WWE isn't real wrestling. It's like fake wrestling.
Are you just now learning that WWE is not real?
I didn't know. Well, okay, I figured it wasn't, but so they like put on like they're like these certain personas, like they have a costume and stuff, and they're these people, and that's kind of fun. As a kid, I could see that being like, oh my gosh, I love them.
As a kid, you fully believe that it is real. As a kid, you write a letter to John Cena asking him if WWE is real, and you sign your return address and you put it in the mailbox, and then your mom takes it out of the mailbox, saves it, frames it, and gives it to you just a couple of weeks back from right now. That's what you do as a kid. So WWE, I wanted to be a WWE superstar.
When you found out that it wasn't real, like it's fake. They're like doing stunts with each other, basically. Was it like finding out Santa wasn't real? Like, were you that
I was about to say that
hurt?
it was a slow burn like Santa.
It was.
My
Okay.
Santa experience was like my parents never came out and just said like, "Hey, Santa's not real and it's all about Jesus," and like all of that.
Yeah.
But I also like didn't fight until I was 16 years old and thinking Santa's real. I like heard murmurs of it in school and just like kind of thought like I reached an age and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But then my parents, like, it kind of puttered out. Like my parents would put presents under the tree and then we all like, without talking about it, they realized that I knew it wasn't real and then they would make jokes
Why
like,
is
from
that
Santa.
sometimes a thing in families? It's like nobody wants the confrontation of saying Santa isn't real, so everyone just waits for people to grow up and we just smooth over it.
Yeah, I like how my parents
figured
did
it out myself because I'm super snoopy and like
I
figured everything out.
I thought you were gonna say because I'm super smart. I'm smarter than all of you, and I figured out Santa's not real when I was 3. Take that.
No, I just would like go looking for gifts. I literally still do that sometimes because I'm just the worst. My mom's gotten way better at hiding gifts. So frustrating.
You go looking. I thought you meant you like go looking for gifts that Santa may have left.
Yeah.
No, you go looking for gifts that your parents.
I think I told my sister that it wasn't real because I was like, "Did you see like what we got for Christmas from Santa?" It said from Santa, but like it was really in mom and dad's closet. Like things aren't adding up here.
And that's what you told your sister? You don't have to tell her. Why? What is this weird requirement that like parents and sisters think? Like, oh, I have to inform the young ones. What will happen if people think Santa's real by age 13?
I felt like I was keeping a secret from her.
Joy will happen. Childish joy and imagination will happen. I don't think she's okay. I think she needs her dreams interpreted. She has trauma. Tell me about your dream life as a child. Like what did you want to be when you grew up?
A vet.
A vet?
Yeah, a vet or an astronaut. I still honestly want to be an astronaut.
Than WWE superstar.
But I know. But I am not smart enough to be an astronaut, but I would volunteer to just go to the moon if anyone asked. I think it would be so exciting. So if anyone
if they want to put my name in a hat, I mean, I'll do it. If somebody wants to just send me up there for comedic relief.
Like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do that? It would be so cool. Yeah. It would be insane. But I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't know. My 7th grade life science teacher, Mr. Sackett, he told us that we would get the chance to go to the moon someday and live there. Or not live there. Maybe live on Mars.
Oh, so he thought.
He thought that we would be advanced enough in our lifetime where we would get to go. So I hope he's right, but I also do think Mr. Sackett was arrested for pulling on the kid's hood or something. So I'm not sure. What? I think that's the only good thing about Mr. Sackett was the fact that I had like a confirmation that I might get to go into space.
Are you sure that he was arrested for pulling on a kid's hood?
I think he like pulled it hard, like it was like a choking issue. He was a little odd. He was really odd. He only listened to Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. I cannot listen to that song because it literally gives me like some flashback and it's scary. Every time we walked into his room, that song would be playing. And anytime we took a test, he would play that song. He was odd. But he did tell me I could go to the moon someday. So I'm really happy that I met him.
Do you want to hear a sad but one of the most interesting facts about the moon?
Yeah.
It's kind of going to bring it down, but the challenge, the Challenger and the Challenger explosion and like the tragedy and all that is horrible. The original guest, because the guest on the Challenger was that teacher, it was terrible and everybody lost their lives. The original guest that they invited was Big Bird. It was the person that was inside the Big Bird suit.
Are you kidding me?
But he couldn't go.
Was he busy?
He probably was. He probably had to film. But not.
I just can't believe he was booked up.
Yeah. He was. Big Bird was booked up. So it was supposed to be Big Bird. Yeah, exactly. So not to be morbid here, but imagine if it was Big Bird. Challenger was sad. It was sad. People died. It was horrible. Children watched their teacher.
But
it was
Big
bad.
Bird?
But imagine if it was Big Bird. Imagine that trauma. It says like Big Bird, like Big Bird's first trip to the moon over the shuttle launch, and then it explodes. And do you think they would? What would Sesame Street do? Would Sesame Street like hold a vigil or something, or what would they do? Would they be like really insensitive, and all the puppets would come on with space helmets? And
no, they would not be insensitive. They would all be crying and talking about it. It would be sad. But also, like, I could see them being mean, maybe. I don't remember exactly how the episodes were laid out, so maybe they throw some shade at Big Bird. I don't know.
Being mean? You think they would shade Big Bird after he died in the Challenger explosion?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't
know. You could have saved it? Or what do you...
Maybe they, like, reenact it, and they save Big Bird in... I don't know, because you can't... Like, the kids aren't going to know... Like, the kids need Big Bird in the show, right? I think they would.
The kids are gonna.
I think they would just find a replacement.
Kids were watching the Challenger explosion. Abby, please never become a TV producer, because I'm scared what you're gonna do to our children, to the children of the world.
Okay, so next up we have Peggy Weaver. She is a rookie to the podcast world and a dream analyst, leisurist. She likes to interpret dreams for fun, but she is a ASL interpreter. That's your occupation, correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. Okay, well, thanks, Peggy, for coming. I'm so excited.
Thank you for inviting me into this new world. I appreciate it.
So, in quarantine, what does your day-to-day look like right now?
Today in particular?
Any day. What have you been doing regularly?
Well, so there feels like there is no real regular anymore, but today is kind of a good example of how any day might go, which is I started this morning on a Zoom call working with a person who's trying to improve their interpreting skills. So doing a little bit of mentoring kind of stuff. I have this, which is very unusual. This is not a typical day. And then I was supposed to go and do an interpreting job in person this afternoon. That got canceled. Everything is very up in the air with jobs and work, not only interpreting for everyone. So every day is kind of its own thing, but usually, hopefully, if all goes well, every day I have at least one job, either in person, interpreting with deaf and hearing people, or doing it this way on Zoom. Yesterday was all day using Zoom or video technology, and today was supposed to be in person, but that's kind of how it's going. And then, strangely enough, the days fill up. It's kind of bizarre to think about. We used to work full-time jobs, and how is it that having one job a day now, somehow the day still fills up? So anyway.
Yes. So this week we're talking about dreams. So we're talking about aspirations as well, but could you talk a little bit about what you do as far as looking at actual dreams when you're asleep?
Absolutely. So there are many different schools of interpreting dreams, of working with dreams. So you might have someone on another week, another time that believes very different about how to look at them. But from the philosophy that I worked with and studied, I believe that dreams are there to tell us things that we don't know yet. So for example, when someone says to me, oh yeah, last night I dreamed that I went to a party and I walked in and I was at the wrong party and I had a weird clothes and whatever they say, and then they wrap it up and they say, so I know exactly what that's about. That's because the other week this happened. I don't believe that to be true. I think if you wake up and you immediately think you know what a dream means, that means you don't know what it means, because dreams don't waste our time. They don't tell us things that we already know. If you know that you are feeling behind in your schoolwork, your dreams aren't going to tell you that, but they might give you some insight into why that's happening or what you can do to remedy it. So usually when I look at a dream, I ask a person to tell me the whole dream. I pay particular attention to where emotion arises in their voice. I pay attention to parts that they think don't really mean anything, because sometimes those are the parts that do mean something and they don't want to look at them. I pay attention to numbers and colors, really just all the details that are there. I usually ask a person to name the dream for me, because that will tell you something about how they might summarize it. And sometimes the names people come up with, in the back of my mind, I think, that is not the name of that dream. And then later on, as we work through it, I think, oh, okay, I kind of get why maybe they named it that. And then the biggest piece, the thing that's hardest for all of us to understand, myself included, in this particular, this is a Jungian philosophy, Carl Jung, the Jungian philosophy of looking at dreams. Everything in the dream represents a part of you. So, for example, if you, Abby, dream about your brother or your best friend, or if tonight you dream about something that happened today and it's a person that you came in contact with today, you're not really dreaming about that person, but what that person represents inside of you. And that is how dreams speak to us, I believe, through symbolism, through representation. And they're kind of like a puzzle that you really have to look at and try and figure out what all the symbols mean. And usually when you find that, if it's an important dream, and not all dreams are hugely important, but if it's a really important one, when you find that, you have this kind of aha, oh, wow. And usually you need someone else to help you to get to that place, because it's trying to, our dreams are trying to unlock something that's in our unconscious that we aren't aware of.
So you mentioned that you believe that dreams tell us something that we don't already know. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate or give any examples of what that means?
Sure. Good question. So let's say I have a difficult relationship with my mother. That's not true, but let's say it is. And there's something in a dream that perhaps my mother in my dream is screaming at me and yelling at me. And I wake up and I think, oh, I know what that's about. I can't stand my mom. That's exactly how she is. Perhaps I have a little bit of that personality of my mother in me that has been handed, I've learned, I grew up in that household. So perhaps the dream is trying to say to me, okay, that's how your mother acts. Yes. But in the dream, if your mother is you, what part of you does that represent? So the dreams are trying to illuminate something for us that we aren't aware of. We don't understand. Like, I'm sure in your college classes, you talked about psychology, the id, the ego, the unconscious, all of that. This school of thought believes that it's trying to bring something that's in our unconscious to our conscious awareness. And that's why dreams can be hard to look at. Dreams can be very difficult sometimes. They can be very difficult to pick apart, because sometimes it's parts of ourselves that we don't want to see.
Yeah. You mentioned before we started this that you're not a licensed psychiatrist. You don't have any like dream interpretation, like professional training. So can you tell us a little bit of why you got into this and how you got into this?
Yes, I work with deaf people, and there was a stretch in the late 80s where I had issues with carpal tunnel syndrome, which is not a good thing for an interpreter or a teacher of the deaf to have, because it limits the movement of your hands. So I went into a sabbatical program that is actually here in Madison, Wisconsin, is where I'm talking to you from. And part of that program was to meet with someone once a week. They were kind of our spiritual guide, if you will, but really it was wide. It encompassed anything we wanted to talk about. And the person that I was paired up with just happened to be a person who was very into dream work. And so when we first met, she laid out different options for what we could talk about. And I don't remember how it initially happened, but I really was fascinated by the dream work part. I don't know if I had a dream that first day or what, but really that once a week meeting with her became my bringing my dreams to her and us talking. And at that time, I really knew nothing about dream work. So I was very much a beginner at that time, but it was so enlightening. And it was at a very difficult time in my life because here I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? I can't do my career anymore. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And so the dreams just every week seemed to bring surprises, or sometimes it was like, I have no idea what that dream means. And sometimes she didn't know either, but we kept on going. And so after that program was over, it was about an 8-month program, I decided that I really wanted to keep up learning about dreams. So anything that I saw, conferences, anything, I would sign up for it. Read books, went to workshops, retreats, and I kept learning. And then just about, about 8 years ago now, I learned of a program in Chicago. There's actually a Jungian Institute in many larger cities. And I lived in Chicago for a while before I moved back to Madison here. And so I went to a 2-year program that included both licensed practitioners and those who were just wanting to learn about it. I was part of that group, and I passed through that program. So I have a certificate from that program, but it's not a certificate to practice. I would need to become like a licensed social worker or a licensed therapist if I wanted to actually practice for a fee as a career. So anyway, that just took me deeper into it. And to this day, I love when people call me, friends that I have, and say, I had this weird dream and want to talk about it. I love seeing the information that dreams can bring to people. And I have someone that I work with still on my own dreams to try and, I find that dreams lead the way for us. They give us information. They're like signposts along the way.
Wow. Do you have an example that you'd be willing to share with us? Either somebody that you've worked with or one of your own dreams that was like a really big moment for you, where you had like a big realization about your life?
I have a story that I would love to share, and I wasn't sure if I was going to share this or not. It's not about me, but I think this is so big that I will probably never have an experience of a dream like this or meet someone who does. But I've heard this story several times, and my understanding is that it's true. I don't have anywhere to quote you where it's from or anything, but people that I have studied with have told me this dream is true. So yes, the story is that there was a woman who was experiencing a lot of physical problems, and she went to her doctor, and then she went to a specialist, and then she went to another specialist, and no one could really pinpoint what was going on. She had all these symptoms, but none of them seemed to really point to one thing. And so somewhere along the way, one of the doctors said, he didn't say it outright, but he kind of implied like, maybe it's in your head. Maybe you need to talk to a therapist, which infuriated her, as it would many people, right? It's like if you have fibromyalgia or something where it's this cluster of things, but there's no easy way to label it and say, oh, you have diabetes or something like that. There's no test. So she was really mad about that comment, but she thought, well, I've tried everything else. I may as well try that. So she made an appointment with someone. Little did she know that person she made an appointment with was a Jungian, practiced the Jungian therapy model, which dream work is one part of. It's not the whole thing. So she went in for an initial appointment, and she explained that she had gone to all these doctors, and, he took down her life history. And at the very end, he said, so I'm going to just ask you a weird question. I'm curious, have you had any dreams lately? She said, well, that's funny you ask that. I had a strange dream just last night. Well, that, of course, perked up his attention. And he said, please share what it was. And she said, I had a dream that in the dream, I had wolves coming out of my armpits. And the therapist said, Really? There was a long pause, and he said, I think you just diagnosed yourself. And the woman was like, what are you talking about? Now, this shows where you have to have a lot of training and skill. I didn't know this, but what he said to her was, do you know any Latin? And she said, well, not really, unless it's something we use in everyday life. And he said, well, do you know the Latin word for wolf? Do either of you know it? I didn't know it.
No.
I'm looking it up on Google, but I guess that's cheating.
That's okay. I want to see if you have the aha moment when you find it, if you could find it quickly.
Lupus.
She diagnosed herself. She had lupus. Now, you might say, what? She didn't even know what that meant. She didn't diagnose herself. For me, like, it makes the hair on my arm stand up. So that's an example of how dreams, there is a belief that dreams can not only tap into our unconscious, but a larger unconscious. So the end of that story is she went back to her doctors and she had lupus. I mean, is that an amazing story or what? So she was able, her dreams were able to tap into the larger unconscious, is what those who believe in Jungian therapy would believe. And she was able to pull that answer out. Now, that's a really big dream. You know, I don't know that I've ever had a dream like that, but I have had things that I didn't know about myself or I didn't see. And it could be positive or negative. It could be that I have a skill that I don't want to do it. I want to say, I can't do that. That's too scary for me. It can be anything, positive, negative, whatever. And it brings it to our forefront. And that dream, I think, is a perfect example of that. I love that story because it just shows the power that we have available to us through our dreams.
Yeah, I actually have a dream every single night where a different animal is just flying out of my armpits.
I hope you're making that up.
I would have all of the diseases. Yeah. Oh man, well, this was fascinating. I kind of just sat back and took that in. That was really cool.
Thank you. That was so interesting.
Well, thank you both for your interest. And I would just like to say, I mean, we don't have a lot of contact with each other, but now you have my contact information. And if anyone has a dream that they would like to chat about by email or on the phone, I'm always open to that. In particular, if it's something that sometimes people have repetitive dreams and the dream's going to kind of bug you until you pay attention to it and figure it out. So I am available if anybody wants a non-professional to chat with them.
Yeah. Heck, we'll bring you back on the podcast.
All right.
Have you interpret all of our dreams.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much, Peggy. This was a blast.
Yeah, thank you so
much. Take care. Stay safe, okay?
You too.
Bye.
All right. Next up, another episode of This Needs To, and I'm going to do This Needs to Stop. And what needs to stop is birds of paradise scenes in nature documentaries. Abby, do you know what the bird of paradise is?
No.
The bird of paradise.
Hope you're not saying to stop like nature documentaries in general. You just want the birds cut out. Okay.
Of course not. Nature documentaries are amazing.
The
Planet Earth 2 is one of the greatest shows of all time. It's so good.
Amazing.
All of it is great. But it is unnecessary that every single nature documentary, you go out there and watch any one, will have this bird. It'll have at least a 5 to 10 minute scene dedicated to this bird right here. And I'm presenting it on my screen. The bird is like in the Amazon and it does a cool dance to try to smash a female bird. And it does this and it shows its little blue neck and it dances around and it cleans up. And that's the whole thing. But every single one of these nature documentarians thinks it is the coolest animal in the world. And every nature documentary, it's like, we know. You ask a majority of people in America, I bet, hey, you know what the bird of paradise is? And they're like, yeah, it's that fancy one that wants to get laid and like cleans up and flushes its neck around. Because it's shown all the time.
It's kind of weird how much nature documentaries really focus on animal relationships.
Oh yeah,
and how they mate. I'm just
really
thinking about
cool.
that.
I kind of think that's
interesting, but it's kind of weird. Like, is that right to be watching? Should I feel uncomfortable watching that? What are they rated?
I don't think. Yeah, Planet Earth 2 is rated R. It's rated X.
I'm gonna look.
It's blocked on the Bethel Wi-Fi. Actually, it's rated G, probably G or PG. I mean, what, like animal sexual content is one of the tags.
It's like they kind of go in like depth to it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a way. It's one of the best ways that I think humans can understand that, like, animals aren't just like our property, or animals aren't just like this lower life form that are just there. Because if we show like, because that's what those nature documentaries show. They show that, like, look at how complex these creatures are. Like, they have mating rituals that are like more complex than humans' mating rituals.
Yes.
Like, they do all these things. They're connecting animals to us. And I think that's really cool. And that's why I'm not throwing shade at nature documentaries. Nature documentaries do a whole lot. I think the best shot.
Too much of a spotlight on the bird with the blue neck.
Oh, way too much. There needs to be more walruses in nature documentaries, because walruses are freaking sweet.
I don't know why. I like the ocean documentaries much better than like Amazon rainforest. Like, I love like sea creatures. I find it very interesting because I feel like it's a world that we're not a part of at all.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to me.
That is true. I am partial to nature documentaries that are on land, and a good mix of it. I think the sea ones and the ocean ones get a little too one-dimensional for me. It's just like, it's all
repetitive too.
It's all this. It's all the ocean. It's like everything's kind of the same. But there's a lot of diversity in there. But there needs to be more walruses, more freaking muskox and yaks, and like cool animals like that. Show me some more like bugs. Show me more bug stuff. Bugs are sweet.
They don't focus on bugs.
They don't. They do.
I want to see more bugs too.
Well, what they do?
I want to see the bugs, like, you know, in Lion King, when that little the muskrat and the warthog like lift up the log and
Timon
they see all those.
Pumbaa,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, little warthog boy.
Yeah, it is so cool. All those bugs. Where are those in the nature documentaries?
Exactly.
Those are cool.
We want that. BBC.
Find that log.
Give us the Pumbaa log. We want the Pumbaa log. So in conclusion, stop showing birds of paradise. We know what they are. We don't need any more of them. Show us the Pumbaa log. All right, we're back. Next up, we got Sam Mulberry, Scott Winter. You guys know him. Abby Pautz, me. We're here. Scott has a sweet old cowboy hat on that looks like the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. I'm right in that, right? He has a hat, or am I totally off base?
I want to know from Scott, how do you feel about the Scarecrow comparison? Because you like this hat, right?
Yeah, it's been beat up quite a bit. I've had it for 20 years. I got it in Mexico, and I thought it made me look like I was Australian or something. I don't know, but I call it my cowboy hat. And so a friend of mine, whenever he took his kids out of school to skip school just for fun, to go do stuff, he called it Cowboy Days. And he wouldn't let me call it Cowboy Days when I pulled my kids out of school to skip school. So I'd call them Pirate Days. So then this was not my cowboy hat, it was my pirate hat. It's not a pirate hat at all.
I feel like you're avoiding the Wizard of Oz question, though. How do you feel about Zach saying that?
I don't feel great. The scariest thing about my childhood was watching Wizard of Oz, and I have not ever watched it as an adult.
Me as well. It's scary. It's so scary.
I feel like everybody thinks it's scary only because of the flying monkeys. Is there any other reason why it's scary?
No, the witch is scary.
The witches.
Her riding on
Oh.
that bike. On that bike.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
gosh, that
because
is the
parents
scariest
in
thing
my
ever.
generation thought that was a kids movie, and it's not.
Right, but of her three companions, the Scarecrow's the one you'd want to be, though, right?
Oh yeah, Michael Jackson. I like The Wiz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does
I had a
Michael
crush on Diana
Jackson
Ross.
play the Scarecrow in The Wiz?
In The Wiz, yeah.
I haven't seen that movie. That's
Really?
Way to
awesome.
go, theater boy. I hate all
I
musicals.
know.
All of them. And I even know that.
So you hate that movie?
Ultimately, what's going to send me to hell is that attitude about musicals. And what my hell would look like is me standing in line waiting to pay to get into a High School Musical. Probably
totally
Oklahoma.
disagree.
Probably Oklahoma.
Okay, I would agree with Oklahoma. Totally disagree, though. I actually, what I don't want to see are professionals do musicals. I want to see high school musicals, middle school musicals. This past summer, my wife and I, and then Annie Berglund and her husband, we went to see a community theater production of Cats, which is one of the greatest nights of my life. Afterwards, I decided I'm going to go to any production. I hate Cats. It's terrible, but I love it. I'm going to go to any production. And here's the idea, though. The older or younger the people performing it, the better. I would love to see an elementary school version of Cats. I would love to see a nursing home production of Cats. I would love it.
If you could Mystery Science Theater 3000 it, then maybe. You know, it's like
that's what's going on in your head. This is the life of the mind.
It's like finding two of your best, most sarcastic friends and really going to a bad movie, like a Vin Diesel movie, and just ripping it to shreds out loud.
Yeah,
in the theater. Like that's a fun time.
And when we went to the movie, we were the only people there because there was a blizzard in northern Wisconsin, so we were able to talk through the whole movie. But the best part about
it was Cats, that's why nobody was there.
Well, there was that too. But the best part about seeing the production this summer, the community theater production, is none of us had seen it. None of us knew what it was about. And at intermission, the four of us tried to piece together what was happening to us, and that was probably the greatest 10 minutes of my life. Because we all had different experience. It was like Rashomon. We all had different experiences of what happened.
I saw Cats on Broadway on band tour in high school.
I'm sorry.
And our band director would not let us leave. We tried.
Well, yeah, I mean, they pay for the tickets. The least you can do is sit in the theater for 2 hours. What are you going to go outside and smoke on the sidewalks?
The actors
leave it intermission?
Interacting with us in the aisles and things like that. Just you.
I maybe have gone on YouTube and watched high school productions of Cats with my kids.
Scott,
it's a family disease.
You're the guy who would come to all the musicals that I did and just make us feel bad by not reacting to anything we did, any like interactions with the audience. So thanks for crushing my dreams, Scott.
Yeah, speaking of dreams, that's my nightmare.
There are people out here who don't drink water.
What do you mean?
Like there are people out here that just they just are hydrated by like sport, like Powerade and Mountain Dew, and they're just like, oh yeah, I never drink water.
I don't
and that's so crazy to me.
Mountain Dew. I had it one time. It burned my throat. It hurt.
Yeah, I mean it's like super.
But I'm not a big pop person in general. But like, oh my gosh, I feel like that is like some type of a drug. It is. Right.
I mean, caffeine there's a ton of caffeine and sugar, and it's really horrible for you.
Yeah.
People got to drink water. People out here not drinking water, and then they're like, "Why am I sick all the time?" It's like because you're not drinking water. Is why.
Water fixes everything. It's the truth.
It fixes a lot.
And if you I'll go days without drinking like my regular amount of water, I'll get a headache. It'll be the worst day of my life. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
Because I start my day off with orange juice instead, and it's just a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, and you see the effectiveness of water by when you're thirsty and you have a juice or something. It doesn't do anything.
No.
Juice.
There's something about like cold water when you're really thirsty. Oh my goodness.
It's the best drink ever. And it quenches your thirst like that. One glass, boom.
Isn't
One
it
glass,
weird that
everybody
it doesn't
knows
have
the
a like
rules.
taste, but it kind of does?
Water?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it does have a taste. Different bottled waters have taste,
That is true. That is 100% true. You could blindfold me and put different cups of bottled water. I think I would know. I'm so weird about it. All water tastes different. Like hose water tastes different. Hose water is like really good. Even though you're not supposed to drink hose water, it is so good. Like when you're filling up water balloons when you're in 4th grade and you're just taking a couple swigs because you're hot and you're out
and
there.
You're swallowing the water balloons whole.
No. I'm allergic to latex, so I had to be a little careful with the water balloons.
Gotta be careful. Okay, let's this is just gonna be part of the segment.
Welcome to the podcast.
Let's get welcome. Let's get deep here. What do you, when you think of the word dream, like what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What does that word mean to you?
I wish I could say dream of like my goals, but when I think of the word dream, I think of like my dreams that I have. Not
like,
often. I'm
like
not
at
a
night?
huge. Yes. Like
Okay.
I'm not a big dreamer. I don't remember a lot of my dreams. I have the weirdest dream from when I was younger that I remember, and it was like the most traumatizing thing. Before we remodeled our house, we had like one of those like tubs that was like cool, like the bubbles shot out, like it was like a hot tub.
One of those,
you know what I mean?
One of those tubs that were, cool.
I don't know how to explain it.
A
It was
hot
like
tub?
a triangle kind of. Well, it had like water shooters.
Jets?
Like yes, jets.
I think you're describing a hot tub.
It's not a hot tub. It was an actual tub.
The cool
porcelain
tubs
tub.
with water shooters. Oh, it's like a jacuzzi.
There, that is the word. I can't think of any words.
It was inside. Got it.
Yes, it was inside. It was in my parents' bathroom. And like when I was younger, we'd take baths in there all the time, blah, blah, blah. And one night I had a dream that this tub turned into a portal. It was green. And my sister, me, and my uncle lived with us for a long period of time because he's just super fun and goofy.
Yeah.
And would watch us when my parents were working. And we were each like in a section or like corner of the jacuzzi. And like somebody had to go in, like fall into the portal in order to close it. It was the scariest dream of my life, trying to figure out like who was going to be the one to go in.
Yeah.
And so I remember running downstairs and just sitting on the couch. I wouldn't tell my mom about it because I thought it was just a little crazy that I was dreaming of it. But that's the dream I remember like the most vividly.
Where did the portal go?
I don't know. I didn't fall in it.
Oh my
I'm
God.
not really.
You got to bring that one to. You got to bring that one to Peggy.
I know.
The portal will probably
interesting.
go to Lupus, or go to like a pack of wolves or something.
What are the odds dreams come true? Like, not night dreams, not sleep dreams. Like,
just like, what are the odds that anyone's dreams come true? Oh man,
yeah.
That's a sad way of phrasing it.
I know.
Give me the betting odds. Give me $5 on me becoming a feature journalist. What are the? I mean, I think here's what I think about this. I think that we, especially as Americans, can depreciate the value of dreams and can make it a lot harder to achieve those dreams through this American idea that we just have to do things that make sense. And we just have to do things that there are opportunities for. And we need to be welders and construction workers because there are jobs. And we can't be stand-up comedians, and we can't be slam poets, and we can't be authors because those things just aren't realistic. And those things aren't, maybe they're not going to have a lot of jobs in the workforce. But I think if people take up that mindset of like, oh, you know, the thing that I really love to do, like, I can't do that. Like, that can't be a thing that I do for my life. I can't be an actor. I can't write stories. I can't go out there and play a sport. So I'm just going to like go to school, like try to get good grades, go to a tech school and get a welding degree. Not saying that those degrees are bad, because people love to do that. And that's a really important thing in our society. But I think a lot of times people, especially here in America, where we're so focused on progress and opportunity, we're scared to think big. We're scared to think abstract. And we're scared to think in ways that aren't super concrete. And we don't want to have conversations with our family members about big ideas other than like God and church, because that's something that's accepted as something that we can talk about. But I feel like it's not super accepted to talk about like, what do dreams mean? And what does existence mean? And like all these huge questions. But I think that's what it takes to make these big dreams happen. Like me, I want to write like long nonfiction books that I go and report for years and like write books. And I know that that's something that's like that's not easy. And it takes a lot of work. And if you ask like a lot of professionals, they're going to say, oh yeah, that's like a 1 in a million thing. But people do it. And that's like, I love telling long form stories. But so what I'm not going to do is just say like, oh, I can't do it, so I'm just going to give up on it. I'm just going to like report daily newspaper, and I'm going to report the freaking new water filter in New Richmond, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we take up that idea, then what happens to our dreams? We stop pursuing them. We stop thinking about them. And maybe an achievement of a dream won't be what we initially think. Maybe my achievement of my dream to write big long form books might not be me getting published, but I can strive toward that dream. Other things will happen. I'm going to learn about myself. I'm going to learn about people. I'm going to achieve things that I wouldn't if I just said, no way, that dream's not going to happen. You know? So that's what I think. And yeah, I guess, what do you have to say about that? And I have a question that goes along with it too. But what do you think?
I think I agree with everything you say. I really thought about the point where you brought up talking to family members and friends about what you want to do with your life. And sometimes when you say things that you really want to do, like big things, and you have these big dreams, seeing their faces in response, like, you're probably not going to get to do that kind of response, is detrimental and makes you not want to talk about the things you really want to do. You just end up saying, oh, I'm just going to try and get whatever I can. I'm going to try and do whatever I can. But like, my dreams are bigger than that. But because of the way people view them and view me, is hurting my aspirations and my dreams to be bigger and better.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have you experienced that growing up?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you remember, do you have like an example of something you really wanted to do as a kid, or even like a young adult, that you like, that took a big hit because of the way people responded to it?
I think it was a lot with sports. I mean, I'm really glad I'm not playing like crazy sports at like a D1 university, but trying to like be the best I could be at softball, and then like talking to other coaches about it, and like sometimes their faces, that was hard. And I'm super glad that it didn't work out, but it's hurt the way I talk about my career dreams or my like family aspirations in general. It makes me hold back what I actually tell people around me. If they ask me like, what's your dream, I'll hold back. And I try not to, but I'm scared of seeing those faces.
Wow. Yeah. That's yeah, thanks for sharing that. Jeez. I think that's common, especially here, where we live, and especially in America, and then especially in the Midwest, where it's just you either go out and farm, or you write PR, or you do these things that are very concrete. And I think I'm so thankful to have hair, and I've experienced that too. I haven't experienced that with like my parents, but other
me either.
outside family members. But like my parents have always been so excited with everything that I wanted to do, and all of my dreams, even when I thought I wanted to be a Broadway actor, or when I thought I wanted to be a corporate trainer, and now when I want to be a journalist. Like they just made me focus on go out and do your best and be the best at it, and then you can do that. And I think that's been really, really formative. And I think talking about this really, it makes me think of like, we hear the term like the American dream a lot, you know? And I think it's a lot of in terms of like immigrants and like coming to America, and there's all these opportunities, and that's a whole different conversation where how immigrants are being treated right now. But I think what is the American dream? I think if we really look at what the American dream is just like making money and having a cookie cutter family, and like giving back to the economy so that like big rich people can like keep making money and corporations can keep going, because that's how America runs. And like, I don't think that's how we should be thinking of the American dream, you know? Is that how people should be functioning? And luckily, I think we see every year more and more people challenging that and saying like, no, that's not what being a dreamer means. This is what being a dreamer means. Thinking abstract, thinking outside of the box, doing things that haven't been done in history, and trying to be something new. So I think that's how I like to think of it, you know?
And I think everyone has their own definition or like view of a dream. And I don't want to take that away from anyone, because I know my dad isn't passionate about the industry he's in for work, but I know his dream was to have a family and be able to take care of us and be able to send me and my sister to school. And I know that's his dream, and he's happy with that. But his dream wasn't to be in the jewelry industry. I'm sure he had different dreams, but he had a dream to have a good life where we could travel and be able to see the world and learn. And I think if that's the American dream to some person and it's something else to someone else, I don't think we can say which is right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think I get kind of cynical when I talk about that kind of stuff.
Oh, no.
That's true. No, you bring up a good point. I think that is very true. There are people that that American dream works for, and that tradition works for. And I think we'll bring up one more point. I took a P-TAG class at Bethel this semester called Spirituality, Sexuality, and the Family with Dan Rota. Everybody should take it. It's amazing. And he brought up, like, one of the first days of class, he brought up this idea that humans operate in one of three boxes. And box one is thinking that everything is that the world just revolves around your traditions and what you believe is correct, and everybody else doesn't really matter. Your traditions work. Doesn't matter if people are starving or people are wrongfully incarcerated or anything. It's not affecting you. You're going to keep doing what you do. That's box one. And box two is that you're only thinking about what's wrong in the world. You're only thinking about the wrongful incarcerations and the people that are starving. And the only thing that any human can ever do is like try to be an activist and try to like help it. And nothing is good, and all traditions are horrible. And anybody who lives by tradition is bad and is against the system and is perpetrating all of this hate and racism and all of this. That's box 2. And then he said box 3, which is where we should strive to be, is this balance between them where you understand that there is a lot of inequity in the world and there's a lot of hate and evil in the world. And there's a lot that we can do to help it. And we should try to help that. And our tradition isn't the only one that matters, but we should also understand that there are people out there that their tradition works for them. And they're not hurting people by it. They're just, that's what they know. And they're not being a bad citizen by just living their lives. And we shouldn't go back and judge them. I think we get into this paradox a lot where people who are very like woke or very like they want to help a lot of the world. And I put myself in those boxes, and I do this too. They call people out for being judgmental against different groups and doing all that, but then they're turning right back around and judging those people. And is that really how we should be operating? Is that what's going to fix it? Is just being angry at the people that are being angry at other people? We look at some of the greatest leaders of all time. We look at what Martin Luther King Jr. did, and that's not how he operated. There were people who were killing people like him and were being horrendous to a whole group of people. But he came out and just said, we're gonna love them, and we're gonna stand our ground. But I think that's a big point. But I think there's a lot of different ways that we can think about things like dreams and how we operate in America. I think bottom line, if we just stop using judgment as like the number one driving force,
You've been listening to Life Is, a podcast from The Clarion, Bethel University's national award-winning student publication. We'd like to thank our producer, Sam Mulberry, and Scarecrow Cowboy Scott Winter.
The Clarion still publishes stories every day online at bethelclarion.com. Right now, check out Jasmine Johnson and Emma Harville's investigative piece on Bethel's sexual assault reporting process.
Please tell the people in your life about Life Is, which drops Monday and Friday until we run out of things to say.
Because ultimately, life is people. So tell the middle school cast of Cats.
And tell the portal in your jacuzzi.
And tell Big Bird, because thank God you can.
And tell all the birds of paradise.